Welcome to the Broski Doodles podcast. It's your boy Kiko Cervantes, and today we got a nice movie review. And we're with the crew. DJ BJ's in the house, the darkest DJ in all of South Florida. Today's movie is I feel kind of good about like watching this movie because it makes me feel like a movie buff. Because this isn't a movie that really sounded. People didn't know about this movie. You didn't even know about this movie before I told you about it. I didn't even know about this movie until I saw it browsing through one of the streamers. It's called The Last Vermeer. The Last Vermeer. Which is, I think it was a really good name to use. It gave it like some depth. So the movie tells the story of Dutch folk hero Han van Meegeren, who swindled millions of dollars from the art world, including the Nazis, by selling them forgeries of what he said was Johannes Vermeer, along with other painters, I think, that he also forged and sold paintings of. So this movie was really interesting. We have the whole art part of it, which is super interesting. And then we have the whole war thing, where it lets you see how in war, it's not as simple as black and white, like the bad guys and the good guys. Because when the bad guys take over a city, they kind of have to have relationships with the people that know how to move the city. You cannot just take over everything. You need to have, you need to liaise with other people there. So you see how there's gray also. People that kind of work with them but weren't really support. You feel me? Like you see the whole thing that you don't really see normally in movies. It always paints it like the bad guys and the good guys. And in reality, there's in-betweens where maybe somebody worked with them, but they did it so that they could also feed information back to the, so that part of it was also so interesting. I really like the movie. Mm-hmm. I think the movie had a really nice ending, what I thought was the ending. And then there's that last scene where I think it gives it an extra notch. Like if it would have ended with him just being the hero, it would have been like, oh, it's a nice story, very Hollywood, victory at the end. Oh, pretty cool, feel good. But that twist at the end of finding out that he maybe was a sympathizer for real, it gives it an extra twist where it's like, oh, fuck.
It leaves a bad taste in your mouth, really.
It does, but that's not necessarily a bad thing, right?
Right.
Because it strikes an extra nerve that is like, oh fuck! It almost leaves you disappointed. You're like, ah, damn.
You're like, wait, did we just let the bad guy win? Like, what's going on here? Golly. There's so much to unpack in this movie.
Did you like it? What are your thoughts?
Oh, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It's amazing to because you always think World War II. You always think about the battles leading up to World War II, what happened, how long it took, but nobody really thinks about, all right, the World War II is over. Now it's us picking up the pieces of what these people did and left behind, taking these people, like giving justice or doing justice, serving justice upon the people that the Nazi sympathizers, people that were on the same side as the Nazis. And like you said, it's not black and white. Some sympathizers had to sympathize because the only other option was death. So either you help me being a Nazi, or I have to kill you. And then you end up helping this person. This person now goes to jail. They find out that you helped this person, or that this person gets put to death. They find out that you were helping this person, and now you're going to get put to death because you helped this guy. When the other option, the only option was death from the start.
Yeah. And it's also a moral question of how far do you go to be with the good side, right? Mm-hmm. Because in the movie you see how one of them had to sort of, I mean, it's assumed that she fucked the Nazis, right?
Right.
But
It's
she did it
it.
to survive. So how far do you go? Like, do you just go like, no, fuck you, I hate you guys, and then you get killed? Like, it's even a moral question of where how far do you push that, I guess, loyalty to the truth, you know? Which is an uncomfortable topic too, right? Because we would all like to think that we're gonna be in the side of, you
Of the
know,
right.
yeah. I mean, not
Not
the
not
right wing
not the Reich. The right.
or the right, but the like of the right thing to do, right?
Right.
Which honorably would be like to the death, right? Like, but in the case of women, sometimes you know, like they had to. What do they do? And it's crazy. You just said something so important. It's rare that you see in movies show you what happens after the war, because we all think like, oh, the war ends. Now it's just happy doodles.
Yeah, no,
And it isn't. It's like
it
a
isn't.
whole. It's actually like a power play from the people that were controlling to the because the allies, including the U.S.,
No,
took control of everything, and now they're trying to give it back, but they don't want to, and it's a whole power play.
no, and look at all those towns that were destroyed, like that as a result of the war, like rebuilding all that. Like people are homeless for a good foreseeable 5 to 10 years kind of scenario. Like,
Yeah.
what happens then? Like that doesn't really get talked about because it's not the action, it's not the part where people really like to go see, which is probably why this movie didn't really get too much buzz because there wasn't really that much action or anything like that would warrant it being like
Didn't
a blockbuster hit.
didn't you feel like this movie had that feeling of Hollywood esque? Because this is the thing, like I was actually surprised that this movie wasn't more known because it had all the little things that make a Hollywood esque movie hit in the theaters, but it's not known like that, and it makes me feel good about that. But in a way, it sucks that people, I guess, don't gravitate towards those type of movies that show you some truth because it doesn't have all the flashes and the guns and the tanks and the, you know.
This felt comparable to like the pianist. Did you ever see that movie?
Yeah, the pianist.
The pianist, yeah.
I think I mean maybe I heard it wrong, but I heard like the pianist.
You hear what you want.
Indeed.
No, yeah, the pianist. But that movie, like, well, I mean, like, so, like that same kind of grit, that same kind of feel that you get from the pianist, you get from this movie. Like you get fully submerged into the idea that you're in there in World War II, 1940 something. 3 weeks after the war ends.
What happens?
Yeah.
Like it's not just happy. I mean, it gets better, right? I mean, it's better than it was yesterday, right? If the war ended. But now everything's fucked. There's no food, right? There's no food. Like people don't understand. Like you could die by just not having food.
Dude, like they had rations.
Yeah.
And look how long after that whole scenario happened, this guy had to go back to work, a regular job, just collecting. And like who does that? Like rations, like that means that the supply of food for the entire country is limited based on the population. Like it was horrible. Like I can't imagine that.
Yeah. There's okay, so let's talk about the main guy, right? Which is Han van Meegeren.
Dude, Guy Pearce, bro.
He kills it, right?
He is a chameleon, bro. He can any role that he plays, like he blends in, and like you think it's this guy. Like you don't see Guy Pearce, you see the Hans van
Meegeren. I don't know how to pronounce it. I mean, I just say it with confidence.
Meegeren.
Dude, he's so good.
Really?
You believe that motherfucker's a painter.
Yes.
Right? You believe it.
Yes, he takes command of the room every single time.
And like, I love
like when like he's trying to tell the elaborate story, and then the guy's like, no, but I just want to know like the truth. Like this is not like I'm like to the guy in my head. I'm like, yo, chill, bro. He's gonna get to it. Just listen to this guy. Listen to like his artistry is in the words and in the like the expression and the behaviors and like his painting, his brushstrokes are what like the how he behaves and how he emulates this character. Like he's creating art in that in just being in that movie.
Yeah, yeah, which makes it so much harder for you to accept the ending, which is like, fuck, I rooted for you. So,
Yeah.
but I mean, we'll get to it. But I'm almost not 100% sure if the movie wants to let you think that he was actually a Nazi, because he was like, oh, but that's really not what I meant. Because what if like you're in that world? I'm not saying it's right for you to send a book to Hitler or whatever the guy was, right? I think it was Hitler, right?
That was for Hitler. I mean, like,
Yeah.
without a doubt, it was for Hitler.
Right. So it's like, what could you argue? Oh, I did that to sort of make them think, or would you say no? That's going far above the line of no. You're like sympathizer.
It would have to be that. What did Adolf Hitler request a painting? Like that. Did he ask? Did he remember? Oh, look, Hitler also had a paintings of his.
Yeah, he
right?
did. He did.
He bought some of the Vermeers.
Right. So, like, could you say maybe it was in your favor to keep an amicable relationship with this guy to continue to sell him paintings and also so they don't kill me?
Exactly. Like I feel like it's that. I would like to believe that it's more that.
Because that's what I'm
And
saying.
that,
Like the movie doesn't necessarily say he's bad guy or no. I think it leaves it up to you. Like, well, you decide.
I mean,
and that's why no.
there's also a separate argument that you could make for the fact that he's actually a bad guy, like forgery, like he's forging these paintings to sell to people, to like take them other money, even though they're Nazi people. So
Yeah,
it doesn't.
yeah,
Like,
but I think that's
supposedly,
that part you kind of accept, or at least I accept, because you're in this world of like art where they put the context where you have all these critics that are fucking pieces of shit, and they all want to believe like they know
dude,
what real art is,
his
because it's not just about oh let me forge, no, let me put this painting so that these critiquers can see it, critique it, and believe it's some shit that they think it's amazing. Because that will be the best way for me to fuck them.
to like say like, aha, you bitch, you don't know
Yeah.
what the fucking art is,
Yeah, you don't know what art is. I just fucking create a Vermeer that you think is Vermeer. I mean, I tried to search. I couldn't find much information about exactly the events that happened. I mean, the story is real, but the way that things happen in the courtroom, if that shit happened like that,
Man,
that was insane.
like I like how the defendant had like his own little circle.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And it's funny how that was the court in Netherlands. Like, you know how in England it was like with the wigs, or no, that's in the U.S. or in England they have some other shit. It's just funny to see how people were in those times. I don't know. I don't think they wear that anymore. But I've seen places where they still do, like wear the things in the court.
I think at the very least they wear the robe, and
the robe.
I think in England they do wear the wig.
The wig, yeah, that's crazy, right? It reminds you where the fuck this whole thing comes from.
Shit, bro.
So yeah, it's crazy how you see how this art critic, what's it called? Like a critiquer? No,
Our critic.
critic. Yeah, I don't know why that word just left my mind. So the art critics, they're so filled with ego, and he would fill them up to say, "Oh, I found a Vermeer that was never found." That their own mind is making them believe this shit is true. Even if there are things that they could see that might indicate that it isn't, they're like, fuck it. And the coolest thing when he's showing the judge is like, look, that painting, I made that. Oh, how can you prove you made that? Well, you see that guy over there? He looks like the captain. I painted him to look like him. You know that other girl I painted? I painted that. She looks like my assistant. And it's like, that's fucking crazy. And the guys wouldn't accept it still. They're like, no.
No, because it passed all the tests. The critiquers authenticated it, but they didn't want to believe it.
So the other guy in the movie, the captain, Joseph, he's the Dutch and Canadian resistance soldier who's a Jew. And thus he had to hide because his wife was Dutch but not a Jew. So he had to hide and he fought with the resistance. There's a scene where, he meets this assistant and then he kind of has like a little bit of a romance, but that never ends up to anything.
Uh-huh.
And there's a scene where he's laying with her and he sleeps with her, but they don't do sex.
They just lay together, huh?
Yeah, they just lay. And I don't know why I felt like, damn, that you could say is adultery. She had a husband too, and like, now she's with another guy. Like, but in the context of what's happening, you're like, yeah, man, like try to find comfort on anybody with anybody you can. You know what I mean? Like you put.
No, in those times it's different. Oof. Can imagine like in wartime.
In wartime, right?
Even post-war, like it's still, like the husband had died.
Yeah,
her husband. Like, not that she was sleeping around. No, her husband died.
I almost felt like he could lay there with her, just hold her, and they both feel some sort of positive thing from that, some comfort, and then he can go back to his wife that he later forgives, and it's like no wrong was done. Isn't it weird to think like that's how I feel, like just because the context is so crazy. I mean, and also because
we just accepted that was okay.
Yeah, like it made me feel like there's situations in life where like the bar it changes,
I think the movie kind of showed that to you. Like I think the movie wanted you to realize that the bar can be moved depending on the situation.
Yeah. And I think it does move.
Like even for the captain, his bar moved after what he experienced, because nothing worse than fighting for the right side of the law and it blowing back in your face and it bringing you back down to a reality that's rather cruel after everything that you've done. You put your life on the line in several different ways, and for them to repay you this way, then you think to yourself like,
but for them to repay you, like who?
By demoting him, or like by firing him from being captain, and because of the guy complained about the prisoner, after he did all that stuff.
Yeah. That was the other part that I was saying. Like there was some power play even after the war. Like, people don't know a lot about this, but like the Russians were part of the Allied forces. But as soon as the war was won, they were keeping places. They were keeping places that they helped liberate. They're like, oh, by the way, these are now. And it almost immediately started the Cold War, because it's not like it's all dandy, like, oh, the good guys come and help. No, they're also coming with their own interests and their own.
Right.
So it just puts it in perspective how real this shit is. And I don't think you see this from the normal stories about the war. It's always about this D-Day. It's about the actual combat. But they don't tell you about these situations that are a bit more vague and more abstract and more complex, actually. Because when you're fighting the bad guys, like, it's easy to understand. I'm not saying it's easy to fight. I'm saying it's easy to, okay, that's a bad guy, we need to kill them. But when you're in a situation like this where you have to live in this weird world where you have to relate to the bad guys, but you're not a bad guy. And I know that feeling because in Venezuela, there's people that end up working with the regime, and there's this moral question of, okay, are they accomplice or are they just trying to live and they could get some business with these guys, but they're working. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
the whole conversation, we're like, okay, who's a bad guy now? And it's complex and it's not that easy and it's not black and white. It's gray.
Inherently, I guess you can't really decide good or bad in that case because it's about survival. I think Meegeren said that a lot. It was all about survival for
Migrant.
him. Meegeren,
Oh, the
yeah, the
Guy
main
Pearce.
Guy Pearce.
Yeah.
And talk about another power hitter in the European circuit, the clerk, from the All Quiet. Was it All Quiet on the Western Front, or was it, no? He was in the other Nazi movie.
Well, which clerk?
No, not the clerk. The clerks. The guy.
Oh, the guy that the body. No.
No, the guy that was like because remember it was.
Oh, the bad guy. Oh, the sort of bad guy.
Yeah, the counter detective, like
Right, the one that at the end gave him the book with the
yes,
thing.
bro,
Yeah.
that guy. He was in that other movie that we reviewed a bit.
Let me check quickly. Yeah, that guy. You wanted to hate him, right?
But no, but he does a really good job of like giving you the possibility to hate him because he plays so good at doing that.
Yeah, his name is August Deal, and yeah, he did Alex the clerk. You're right. Movies. Let me see. So you say he was on a movie that we recently reviewed.
Yeah,
he was in
yeah.
Inglorious Bastards.
No, another movie.
Munich, The Edge of War.
The Edge of War. Yes.
Yes,
Oh
you're
my
right.
goodness.
That guy is great, and he's scary.
Oh,
He has
You
like
know-
this demented look.
you do not want to get on his bad side.
And isn't it crazy at the end when he gives the captain the book? The captain is like, fuck. Like, and the other guy's like, don't worry, man. Like, just, like, I know you did this for the right reasons. So, like, just let it go. Like,
But even to the end, he was still kind of like rubbing it in his face, like, you fucked up, right?
yeah, of course. But, yeah. Although, you kind of prefer that he gets liberated, Guy Pearce, so that the truth comes out about that story. Even though it's like, because both things, at the end, what happens is that both things are true. Like, a lot of times what happens is people think in situations one thing can be true only if the other is false. But it's the situations where two things can be true. Like, yeah, maybe this guy did forge and fucked a lot of Nazis out of money, but he also maybe was a sympathizer at some level. And both things can be true.
Okay.
And that sympathizer level could mean maybe he did it more for survival, or maybe he did it a little bit more than for survival. Maybe he did it to also benefit himself. And what? It's crazy because what do? You go out there and you just go kill him, or because I saw this other movie recently that I wanted to review alongside this one. It's called Navrik.
Navrik? No.
Navrik, I think it's or Narvik. Navrik. It's Navrik. It's a movie about sort of like a similar situation, but in Sweden, in Norway actually, and pretty much it's almost a similar situation where the Nazis come, control the city, and they don't kill the people, but they have to work with them.
This is like actually them arriving and working with them versus this is already the aftermath.
Right? It's not the aftermath. It's within the war.
Like during wartime.
Yeah, and pretty much what happens in that situation is that Sweden is not with any side, and they
Right, it's a
sell
neutral
they're
territory.
neutral. And Sweden sells 80% of all the steel that the Nazis use to do all the weapons. And Norway is right in the border, and it gives access to the sea. So the Nazis go to that port that I'm gonna tell you the name right now, Narvik or Navrik. Um, and what ends up happening is that people have to work with these guys. It's called Narvik, and it's
Arabic.
on Netflix. Yeah, it's like on Norwegian, or maybe it's in English. Some people speak Norwegian. Anyways, the similarities with these two movies is that you see what happens when people have to work within that world. It's like it's not D-Day. It's not let's kill. It's not a dogfight in the sky. No, you're living with these people, and you kind of have to deal
Like
with it.
like tiptoe
Yeah,
around.
one of the main characters works at a hotel, and she's like, they get to the city, and she hosts them, and they're like, they pay for their room, so she's like, I gotta continue to do my business.
Yeah.
So it's just a weird situation because what do you do in those situations? There's no right or wrong answer. I think it's a case by case, and it's hard to know, you know. And when you saw people getting killed in the public plaza, oh, that traitor! Like how much of a traitor that person was. Like, what's the scale? Like it's not that simple. It's crazy what
Right.
happens, and
Right.
that's what I think this movie's brought out to me. Like the situation where it's like, man, it's aside from the main theme of the movie, which was this cool story about an art forger. There's this background story of what the war aftermath is and what happens with like the people that kind of helped but helped a little or didn't help a lot. Like, and who's the one that decides that? Who's the one who should die? Like,
And this whole time I thought the movie took place like in Germany, but it actually took place in Holland, right? So and
the Netherlands, they don't like
the
when you say
Netherlands,
Holland.
right? And they were also neutral during the war, right? They get
No, Netherlands was against them, but the Netherlands was
oh, as an ally,
subdued.
but they
Yeah,
got
but
taken over.
they were subdued almost immediately.
Oh, so the fact that they were against them, and then when they got subdued, the people that did help, they were labeled as traitor. Okay.
Exactly, or that they consider they helped, right? Because that's the
Hmm.
other thing. Who measures that? Who decides that?
Right, right.
Maybe there's a group of people that are like very like strict about it. Like if you ever talk to a Nazi, you're dying.
Yeah, that's it.
And there's another guy that was like, no, like let's look at this with shades of gray. Like, and then who decides that? Like that's crazy. And every country had that happen. You know what I mean? Like every country had some system that went through it. And you don't hear this. You don't see this. Like I never heard these stories before. Like this type of shit.
No, no, never.
Okay, so more into the art part. Did this movie make you feel like art critics and art people are kind of full of shit?
It definitely makes me more apparent about the fact that art is very subjective. So like if you like to do art, just do it for you. Don't do it because you want to win an award or seek approval or do anything of that sort, because it's like you could even just pay somebody to come and critique it, somebody with name, and then like, oh look, critique this and give me a good critique, and then people buy the buzz, and then that starts going up, you make more pieces, blah blah blah, so on and so
NFTs. Yeah, yeah. I think I like art, but when I saw this movie, I was like, man, when I go to the museum, right here in Spain, they have a really good one, El Prado.
uh,
There's a lot of pieces that strike me, and I'm like, oh, this is great. But then there are other pieces, right, that like are very famous, and you're like, how many of these pieces are not really painted by that guy? Maybe we're painted by his students, or maybe they're fake, like they're forged by some other guy 200 years ago. Like, what, you think forging just like started now?
oh
You know what I mean? Like people were trying to, you know, do some, you know, faking shit back in the day.
yeah.
And these paintings are supposed to come from like the 1600s, 1700s. Who's to say that in 1845 some motherfucker didn't paint some shit? Well, they did, right? Like this guy, Han van Meegeren.
Mhm.
You know what's also crazy? I never heard of Vermeers before
No, me
until
neither.
this movie. And I mean, I'm not like an artsy guy, but I know of the main ones, like Rembrandt or. But maybe it's because he had so many few paintings.
Before seeing the movie, saw the title, The Last Vermeer, I was thinking like, you know, like the Last Samurai or the Last of the Mohicans, like some sort of like last ultimate warrior. I'm like, okay, but then it's the last painting.
Of
So
Vermeer.
wait, so then which was the last Vermeer? The Vermeer that he made, or the like? So then, like, what happened after that? Like, no more Vermeers were found.
Right, exactly. The movie is based on a book that was called "The Man Who Painted Vermeers." That
Mm,
was the name of the book. So, and they put the last Vermeer to make it look like. But yeah, I mean, I guess it's supposed to say this guy was the guy that did the last Vermeers.
I
So,
I I had never heard of Vermeer, but I do remember seeing the painting of the girl, the the one with like the ponytail.
right.
I have seen that painting before, but I didn't know that it was a Vermeer.
Okay, okay.
Um,
Yeah,
so yeah.
I think it was an interesting story. There's another story, bro, on Netflix, a documentary about some guy that forged art and sold it to the New York art, you know.
It's the exhibit, whatever.
Yeah, yeah, there's like two of them that are like Bartleby's and the other.
So,
So it's really cool, like it, because it's full of
mhm.
shit and it's all about subjective value things, and then critics that think they know shit, they could put a price on something depending what their opinion is on that piece. And like you said, I agree. If you do art, if you like it for what you like it. Don't give a fuck about what other people can influence on that. Like, how does it strike you? I do think
the
art is real. I do think art is meaningful, but there's a lot of BS and fraud and fake shit in art that's not real.
the critic didn't necessarily well in reference to the Vermeer, he was just checking for authenticity, right? But in reference to like new paintings of painters coming up and coming, like yeah, that's where it becomes bullshit, right? Like their opinion because they've curated I don't know how many different shows before. Does that mean that this art is more valuable than any other art? You know, like
Well,
there's no way of saying
even
that,
comparing art of the same time, it's
right?
like the critic that's just his opinion, just like record producers, sometimes thought some shit wasn't gonna play, but then they did hit, and people did
Right.
like it. Like, so art is so it could flow so many ways that it's so wrong to try to contain it within. I mean, I do think there's parameters of quality because
Uh,
this whole thing about like art is art and everything is good because it's art. No, like this shit art, right? So,
yeah.
so there are some standards, but there's also this liberty of like, yeah, I just think the art world, it seems to be like very shady people and just hyping up some shit, you know.
Like think of the song Gucci Gang. Have you ever heard of that song? You would say that the quality is very very minimal, even sub prime, but it was popular amongst youngsters, like at the time that it came out. So there is a level of quality to the art, but there's no way of saying that any one art is better than the other. There's no scale
Right,
to be able to put them on, other than the quality scale, like
right.
the quality of the piece. Also, the time that it took to create it, how
I
long
think
did it take?
that could be relevant, but
Like look at the Sistine Chapel. That's a tremendous work of art.
yeah. Well, there's this La Sagrada Familia, which is a church or a cathedral
Uh,
that they're still building in Barcelona. They've been building it for like 100 years. So
oh,
that's they say they're gonna be done like in 30 years. For real. No, but yeah,
yeah.
I think time. I mean, I think yeah. I mean,
I
we
mean,
kind of feel
there's different
better.
qualities that you can look into
Yeah, yeah.
to determine whether or not something is art or something's a masterpiece. But overall, this movie was pretty good. I did like it a lot. I would recommend it to people that are in the art industry. People that like time piece movies, like time dramas of
It is one
the
of those
40s.
movies that we like, but that a regular person that just likes mainstream movies
Possibly not.
might not
Yeah.
get interested in it, because you kind of have to be interested in the story to get interested into the detailed scenes. Otherwise, I can see how this is boring. It could be
Yeah.
boring to people.
Yeah.
So this is not like a movie for the family. Not because it
Not-
shows anything inappropriate, but because
Right.
it's too deep for that. And maybe not even for the boys. Like maybe you have some boys that they're not there yet.
Uh-huh. There's definitely some boys that aren't there yet.
Yeah. All right. All right. I'll give this movie a 7.
Would you take a date to this movie?
I don't think it's a good movie for a date either, because two things. If it's a first date and I'm trying to get a kiss
No,
or something.
first date, no. No, hell no. Like there's no.
Okay, like
there's
just
no way.
like my girlfriend.
Like your girlfriend, like
Yeah, maybe the thing is my girlfriend likes to watch but yeah, but this is not like my girlfriend's favorite movie.
no. Like
She wouldn't
But
do a
it's-
podcast about it.
is it worth watching at once?
For her, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, depending on the type of taste your partner has, I guess.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, a date movie it's not a date movie. It's not a fun movie to have fun. It's a movie that you kind of want to get deep with, and that some people might not like it. Some people might find it boring. But for me, it was really good. I give it a solid 7. What do you give it?
I was left with one question. Where did the girl go? She just disappeared out of nowhere. I don't know why. That seemed kind of weird. But she
Which
also
girl?
was she also a sympathizer? His assistant, Mina.
Right.
She's up and left.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm not sure about that. Wasn't she in the last scene?
She was in the. She went to the bar with she went to the bar with him because they won the case. And then they have a drink. He goes to play the piano. She gets her coat and leaves
Oh, that's true. Yeah, and I didn't get that either.
in the middle of the rain. Like, yo, at least wait for the rain to stop.
Yeah. I mean, that scene is almost like her acknowledging, oh, he let it go. He can now be happy or live life. Because he's now playing the piano again.
Didn't she want to be a part of that, or like it?
That's
or what?
I think that this is what I think. I think that she understood. He's playing the piano. He wants to live life again, and he will go back to also his wife, and she wants to respect that. She's like, I don't want to be that punani that gets in between your life and your kids and your thing.
Oh damn!
Right?
Wow.
So I'm gonna go in the rain.
So she took the L.
She took the L like a champ. I mean, she took the L like a champ.
She was a trooper. She pulled through when she was needed the most.
Cause she could have gone out. She could have gone there and offer the punani and put him in a situation. But she was like, nah, let me be cool. Alright, so what's the score?
That being said, I'd give it a 7 as well.
7 as well. Okay, that's a matching 7 in the Rector scale in the Broski Doodles. Thank you all for watching. Let us know what you thought of this movie, The Last Vermeer. If you just listened to the whole podcast and you haven't watched this movie, I mean, it's pretty weird, but you probably got a taste of the movie as well. I wonder if some people listen to it in that sense. They're like, look, bro, I don't watch the movies, I just listen to it, and it's sort of like watching the movie, but in a more fun way. Hey, man, maybe if we can bring that as well, then that's cool.
Maybe that does it for you, you know?
iTunes, Spotify, YouTube, Napster, Pirate Bay, LimeWire, BearShare. Subscribe to the thing, leave a comment, like it. DJ BJ, much love.
Peace, bro.
Peace.